Human Resources, Chapter 6. In this chapter, we will be discussing how people are the greatest resource of the nation. As we all know, in 1985, the HRD ministry has been established. What is HRD? Human Resource Development. Human resources, which means nothing but the people of the nation are one of the greatest assets for a nation. To enhance the significance of the people and to improve the skills of the people in the nation, in 1985, the Union government has established the HRD ministry. Right now, the HRD ministry is headed by Mrs. Smriti Irani. Now, moving on into the details, how people are the greatest asset or resources of a nation. In order to identify the most valuable resources of the nation, let us say land, let us say minerals, or any other natural resources, what we have abundantly given by the nature. If people are not able to identify this, people are not paying any attention towards the resources, then definitely the natural resources which are given by the nature to us will become waste. Why will it become waste? It gets wasted because people should recognize that it is as a resource. When people recognize this as a resource, they try to identify in which way we can utilize this resource. For example, let us take land. Land is the most valuable resource. In land, we can use the land for cultivation of crops, construction, and also for establishment of parks, industries, or any other thing. If land is not there, or people don't consider land as a resource, then land becomes waste, land becomes useless. But actually, land is a most useful resource for the mankind on which we stay. But until and unless human recognizes this one, people find that this is an important resource, then only we will be able to identify the resources of the land. Let us take water. Water is the most useful element for the human life. Without water, we cannot spend our life properly. A day cannot be spent without water. But using water, if we identify the water as a resource, other than the household needs with the water, nowadays humans are using water to generate electricity. This is a renewable source of energy, which is an everlasting source of energy for us. Like this, not only water, air, we can use the air which is available abundantly in the nature. But if air is not there, the survival of the human beings will become a question mark. It is not possible to survive without the atmosphere present around us. So all these are part and parcel of the nature. These all have to be identified by a skilled person or people. So those people are none other than the human resources of the country. That is the reason why it is rightly named as Human Resources Development or Human Resources Department. Why do we call this as human resources? Natural resources can be identified only by people. People are none other than human beings. So these people are the most valuable resources to identify the other valuable assets and resources which are available in the nature for us. Now, unequal distribution. The entire human resource or the people are not evenly distributed like the other minerals across the world. They are distributed on different bases. So the unequal distribution has played a vital role to make certain countries filled with the human resources in large quantity, and they differ basing on their educational qualifications, basing on the age, and also basing on the sex of men or women. So all these are the different criterias. how to assess the human resources distribution. The distribution is not done equally across the world. The population in some countries is too large, while in the other countries it is too less. Let us see what is this unequal distribution called. The distribution is nothing but the spread across of the population all over the world in different countries unevenly can be studied under the pattern of population distribution. More than 90% of the entire world's population lives in 30% of its area. Let us see here. The distribution of the world population is divided unevenly. It is different basing on the educational qualifications, basing on the age, basing on the population of men and women, the sex category also. If you look at the population which is in the developing countries, there you find the age and the sex will be the determinants of the population. When you look at the population which is in the developed countries, in the developed countries, most of the people would be literates. I don't say they are educated to the par, but they are highly literate people who can understand what to be done for a policy. They can judge whether the policy is required to them, whether the government policy is very good, beneficial to them or not. This assessment you cannot find in the people who are living in the developing countries. That could be one of the major determinants to explain how the human resource differs from one country to the other country. In some countries, nowadays the scenario is coming that the population is more from 35 years to 45 years of age. In some countries, it is above 45 to 50 years of age. In some countries, it is from 20 to 35 years of age. Example, India, 20 to 35 years of age by 2020 or 2025. You find huge population, more than 50% of India's population will be under the bracket of 20 to 35 years of age. When it comes to China, the population moves to 30 to 45 years under that umbrella. So all these brings us the clarity on how the population or the resources differ according to the education, according to the age and according to the sex categories. Now moving on to distribution of the entire thing comes under the pattern of distribution of the population. This pattern of the distribution of population is completely uneven. In some countries of Asia, you find bulk of the population living, irrespective of the education, age or any other things. And when it comes to some of the African countries, you find very less population living. When it comes to down the line in South America or in the Australian continent or somewhere in the Canadian country, the population is not so high as that of the Asian and the African countries. So like that, this unequal distribution is common. 90% of the entire world's population largely lives in 30% of its area, mostly near the tropical region, near the high mountain region, tropical forest lands, very less latitudes, very hot temperatures. In the extreme cold climatic conditions, very less population or merely no population stays there. Moving into the further details, where is the large amount of human resources available right now? South and southeast of Asia, Europe and northeastern North American continent, you find the population living in large quantities. South and Southeast Asia, you find the countries of India, China, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Indonesia, all these countries, Singapore, Malaysia, Taiwan, Bangkok come under the Southeast Asian countries. Europe, you find Russia, France, Britain, Poland, Ukraine, all these countries. And in the northeastern part of North America, you get United States of America, Cuba, then Mexico, the above United States we have Canada. So all these countries are largely populated countries at present. 3/4 of the entire world's population is distributed only in two continents, that is in Asia and Africa. In Asia we have more than 50 countries. Similarly in Africa we have 54 countries. So nearly 100 plus countries are accommodating 75% of the entire human population living on this planet Earth. And moving on to understand where the exact population lives. 60% of the exact population lives in 10 important countries: China, India, USA, Indonesia. Then we have Brazil, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Nigeria, Russia and Japan. So I told many percentages. It may be a little bit confusing. I'll just make a quick recap of this. First, the unequal distribution. From this it's very clear. The population is not at all equally distributed across the globe. In each country, some may be very highly populated, some may be very less populated. Some areas may be densely populated, some areas may be thickly populated. Basing on the unequal distribution, we can categorize the human resources on the educational basis, the age, the sex of men or women. And moving on to the distribution. Distribution is nothing but spreading across. The distribution pattern of the population is not at all equal. That's what we have discussed till now. So, first, on the entire land which is closer to the equatorial zone, where the sun shines directly on the equator and the widespread across to the Tropic of Cancer on the north, Tropic of Capricorn on the south. So, in this 23.5 degrees above the equator, below 23.5 the equator, you find huge of the population living here in the equatorial zone. That is 90% of the world's population lives in the countries which fall in the equatorial type of climatic condition. That is the first one what we discussed. The second point, most of the population lives in the continents of South and Southeast Asia, Europe and Northeastern North America. So, if you understand the first point clearly, that is 90% of the people in 30% of the land, it is a straight point that these all continents what we discussed now, South of Asia, Southeast Asia, Europe or Northeast Asia, largely falls in the equatorial parts of the equatorial zone only. You may get a fundamental doubt. Sir, as a point has been made that when we discuss about the equatorial zone, we can categorize only up to 23.5 degrees Celsius, 23.5 degrees, whether in the north or in the south. So, how can Europe come exactly under this one? Or how can North America come exactly under this? North America's largely populated areas are coming under this region, 23.5 degrees or below this, and Europe's large part, which is south of Europe, you find huge population staying here, and in Asia, south of Asia, you find the large population living here, and 3/4 of the entire population, apart from these 90% living in the equatorial zones, we find 3/4 of population living in Asia and the African countries. It is not said that in all the countries of Asia and Africa, we have equal distribution of population. We never interpret the statements given in such a way what we feel it's convenient. The point is, 3/4 of the Asia's population and Africa are accommodating the entire world's population. In the entire world's population, the Asian countries and the African countries' entire population together accommodates a total of 3/4, that is 75%, which does not mean here that the entire Asian countries all together have equal population and all the African countries have equal population. If you look at the North African countries, the North African countries are in the desert regions. Most of the countries are having the Sahara desert in their own land. So, it's very difficult to find population living there. In Egypt or in Libya, where the river Nile is flowing there, where the tributaries of river Nile are present, there only you can find huge population staying there. So, it differs. Country to country it differs. Continent to continent it differs. But altogether, on an average, 75% of the entire world's population stays in the countries of Asia and Africa, but not equally distributed in all the countries of Asia and Africa. Moving on here, 60% of the entire world's population is largely staying in 10 important countries. What are the 10 largely populated countries in the world? First rank goes to China, across 140 plus million population. Then India with 127 million population, USA, the rest, then Indonesia, Brazil, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Nigeria, Russian Federation, and last but not the least, Japan. These are the important countries which are having more than 60% of the entire world's population living in their own countries. Now, let us see what is the density of population. How do we determine the density of any country's population? There is a simple formula for this. That is density total population divided by total area of the country. That gives to people per square kilometer. The logic is very simple. If you take here to want to know what is the density of a region or an area of a country, then you have to write the total population living in that area, that region, that country, divided by the total area of the country. In how much area are they living? Like for example, in 100 kilometers, we have 1000 population. So the density would be 10 per square kilometer. Like that, it is very easy to find out the density. The density of the entire world is calculated as 51 per square kilometer, while the density of our country is 382 as per the latest census. Now moving on to understand, why do we need to know the density? If you want to know number of people living per square kilometer area, that is in a per unit area, how many people are staying, basing on that we can know the density of the country. If we know the density, we can know whether the land is available for us or not. We can know whether the house's rent is costly or less costly, whether the water availability is there or not. All these we can assess basing on the density. If the density is more, for us to get a house for rent is difficult. To get water availability also may be difficult, because more number of people are using that one. If the density is less, then there could be some problem. There may be some water shortage problem, or some facility problem, transport problem. So like this we can understand about that area basing on the density. So density is nothing but number of people living in 1 square unit area, that is called density. Generally we calculate this per unit as 1 kilometer. So India's density is 382 kilometers, 82 people per kilometer, while the entire world's density is 51 per kilometer. Now let us move into the details. What are the factors that are affecting the distribution of population? Why the population is not equally present in each and every country? Why in some countries we have huge population, while in the other countries we have very less population? What are the factors that are giving a chance for unequal distribution of population across the different countries? Let us see here. First, we can categorize them into 3 categories. The first one, the geographical factors. Second one, the social, cultural and the economic factors. So second, the social, third, the cultural, and fourth, the economical factors. In the geographical factors, we again have the divisions for this. First one, the topography. Second one, the climate. Third one, the soil. Fourth, water. Fifth, minerals. When it moves to topography, most of the people would like to live in the plain lands rather than living in the mountainous lands or the plateau lands. So they prefer to stay on the plain regions because it is very comfortable for them to move from one region to another region. The transport facility would be very easy. It would be very convenient for them to travel across the plain land. When it comes to the hilly region, mountain region or a plateau region, it becomes difficult for them to travel from one region to the another region. An example for a region where the topography influences more number of people to stay in that region when it is a plain land, we have the Ganga plain in India as an example for this, where huge population stays over the Ganga plain. And moving on to the climate, population does not want to stay in the extreme climatic conditions like extremely cold near the polar region, extremely hot in the Sahara desert or the Thar desert regions. So people would try to avoid the extreme climatic conditions. Like for example, we have the polar region of Russia, Canada, where the population is very less or no population we can say. So these kind of things, climate also shows the influence. Soil, the fertility of the soil attracts a large number of people because there is a possibility for them to get their livelihood, where they can attain some livelihood by doing cultivation there. We have the Nile region, where Nile made the soil very fertile. So Nile Delta region is one example where the population lives near the fertile soil regions. Water, where the fresh water is available, there the large number of people would show interest to stay here. Where the fresh water is available? In the lands which are very close to the interior parts, not in the coastal areas where there is a sea or an ocean. So there the population lives very high here. Any river, we can find huge population staying here. Minerals like diamond and oil or gold or any other reserves which are available in a particular place, that would attract the people to come towards that region. Like for example, in Australia, when there was in the early 19th century, they found out that gold is available in Australia. People went from Europe to do the excavation, to do the mining, and later they got settled here. So this attraction of people towards Australia happened due to the presence of the minerals in that particular place. So geography plays a very vital role in the distribution of the population of the countries. That is the topography, climate, soil, water and minerals. Other than topography, other than geographical conditions, we also have the social conditions. Socially, if the region is good, though it doesn't have much problematic climatic conditions, but still there are no minerals available, we can live in a place where it provides better housing facilities for us, better educational facilities for us, better job opportunities for the people. There people would like to settle down, though it is far away from the city, they would like to settle down. So social interaction is required, but at the same time social peace is also required here. Like for example, most of the people would like to settle in Pune rather than in Mumbai, because Mumbai is a crowded city. Pune is not so much when compared to Mumbai. So most of the people prefer to stay in Pune, and many of the industries got established there. There are many housing facilities, good educational opportunities. So all these provides an opportunity for the people to go and settle down there. It gives a good alternative for the people to stay where socially it is good. The next important aspect or the factor which influences the people to come and stay down at a particular place, that is the culture. The culture of a particular place. How do the cultures attract people? There are certain cities, Rome, Jerusalem, Makkah. So all these important places attract large number of tourists to them. So when large number of people are tourist people, then automatically there is a chance for them to develop the tourist attractions there. It is a religious city where religious important prominent people's church, a temple or a mosque or something else is present there. So it's a guarantee that most of the people across the world would come there. When they are coming there, they need certain facilities. These certain facilities will attract the people to come here and settle and establish those facilities. If you go to Shirdi, there you find many people, because most of the Hindus go to Shirdi. Not only Hindus, Muslims, many other religious people also go to Shirdi, worship Lord Baba there. So when the worshipping is happening there, the people, those who want to find out some alternative of some livelihood for them, they start some small business of selling coconuts there, selling the candles there, selling some other requirement things for doing pujas or something else. So like this, it also gives an alternative for them. We can establish restaurants there, we can establish hotel industries there. So all these things attract people to come and stay in the cultural spot regions. And then economic, last but not the least, a very important factor which influences the people to come over to this region, that is economical activity. If there are many industries which are established at a particular place, then automatically most of the people would like to go in search of livelihood. For example, many industries are there. It is guaranteed some employment is available there. For example, most of the people in the country move to Mumbai in search of any job. Why? We have many industries established in Mumbai, starting from film industry to many other industries. So every industry, there are opportunities. So that opportunities can be grabbed only when we move to that area. So where the industries are present, that area will also be mostly populated. Like for example in Japan, Osaka region. So all these regions, there are various factors which are attracting the people towards them. What are they? First, we have the geographical factors. Next, we have the social factors. Third, we have the cultural factors. Fourth, we have the economic factors. In geographical factors, again we have the topography. The plains attract huge number of population. Hilly regions, mountain regions, plateau regions will also attract people, but not so effectively as that of the plain regions. Climatic conditions, people avoid the extreme climatic conditions. People want comfortable climatic conditions, not extremely hot, not extremely cold. Soil, the fertility of the soil will attract more people. Indo-Gangetic plain, then we have the Nile region. Water, the availability of the fresh water. Daily we need water. Without water we cannot do any of our daily activities. So the importance of water also plays a significant role in attracting people towards that. Then minerals, the diamond and the oil, gold reserves which attracted the people across the countries and the continents. So that is one of the factors which motivated the people to come towards them. These all are come under the bracket of geographical factors. Then we have the social, better housing, better education, better opportunity places, peaceful places will attract people. That is according to the social point of view. Cultural, when there are religious centers like Varanasi, Rome, Jerusalem, Makkah. So all these places attract people. There automatically the tourist industry will facilitate these people to acquire some kind of livelihood. And moving on to the last one, economic factors. Establishment of industries, factories will guarantee some kind of employment for them. This guarantee of employment will attract the working force from various parts of the world towards them to stay nearby to that region. So like this, there are various factors which affect the population living in the various parts of the world. Now, population change. How does the population change? Does the people change? No. The number of people getting added to the population over a period of time is called changing. So change is nothing but the number of people getting added over a period of time. So let us look into the details here. Change is number of births and number of deaths. Earlier, up to 1800, the population did not increase much. What are the reasons for the population not to get increased so much? The same countries are present, but the population did not increase as rapidly as it is increasing at present right now. So what are the factors that did not allow the population growth? First, slow and steady growth of the population. Why the population was slow and steady? What are the other factors that supported for this? Large population, the small children, babies who were born used to die too early. So when the population has been born was dying too early, what are the factors that made the population to die too early? That is the lack of proper health facilities. There is no proper health care taken to the small young born ones, and the food shortage. The supplies of the food was not up to the mark of the population's requirement. So these two are the major reasons why the large population was born but died so early. less than 5 years of age. So the infant mortality rate was very high as per the latest statistics if you take from 18th century onwards. So moving on to study, in 18th century, the population of the world touched 1 billion. In 150 years later, that is in 1959, the population got tripled, that is 3 billion. In 1999, less than a span of 40 years, the population got doubled again into 6 billion. So now, in 18th century, we have the population suffering with medical shortages. Medical help was not available. Food supply was not up to the mark. Then what are the factors that made the population to get doubled, tripled, and now reach to 6 billion, which is nearly 500 times larger than 18th century to the present century of 20th or 21st century. We have 6 billion plus population. So the first one is better food supply. Better food supplies are being met to the people's requirement. Medicinal facilities are being improved. Death reduced. The death rates of the young ones are being reduced. But the same factor which supported for the growth, birth factors were increasing. What is the natural growth of a country with regards to population? The total number of births minus the total number of deaths is equal to the natural growth rate of population of a country. The total number of children born, that is called the birth rate. For every 1000, how many children are born? That is called per year, is called birth rate. Number of children die from 0 to 5 years of age, that is called death rate. So number of births minus number of deaths is equal to the natural growth rate of a country with regards to population. That population growth rate was very high from the early 19th century onwards, and this gave us to rise of a factor called life expectancy. With the availability of good food supply, with the availability of better medical facilities and low death rates, risk of dying has been reduced. There is no problem of malnutrition. There is no problem of less availability of the food. So all these factors gave a chance to get the expectations on the life to be more. So what is life expectancy? A number of years a person is expected to live is called life expectancy. In our country, it is 65 years. In some countries, it is 75 years. In other countries, it is up to 80 to 85 years. In the Southeast Asian countries like Japan, South Korea, there are certain countries. So, life expectancy concept has arrived because the population growth rate has increased steadily, because the availability of the food facilities, because the availability of the medicine facilities has increased, the death reduced, the risk of the death has been reduced, and births remained and the people sustained to be healthy and happy. So all these factors gave rise for a concept called life expectancy. How many years can I survive? Expectation of a person to live, how many years he can live, that is called life expectancy. So that's what we have learned from here. So population changed. How did the population got added or the time passed over the centuries? In 18th century it was 1 billion. In 1959 it became 3 billion. In 1999 it became 6 billion. So how did the population got added so much? Why it did not get added before to 18th century? The situation is there was no proper food supply. Food supply was not meeting up to the requirements of the population. The number of people staying were not able to get sufficient amount of food. That is a major reason why the people are not able to survive properly. And due to this, if they get any medical illness or ill health, so there are no facilities which provided for them to treat them. So lack of proper medicinal facilities. Why did the population increase so rapidly? Prior to 18th century, we are finding the population is not at all increasing. But when it comes to the after 18th century, the availability of the food supplies was increased by the nations at that time. So the production has come up. The industrial revolution has given a chance for the extensive production of agriculture. Earlier, the entire production was being carried only with the human and labor work. But as the time passed on, there were machines to do the work more effectively. With that, the production has gone up extensively and a wide variety of production has been come up. So this production has increased the food supplies, and the increase of knowledge in the biological human nature has given a chance to understand about the human body, anatomy, biology of the human structure, and the discovery of the medicines, penicillin, so smallpox medicine. So all these things made the life secured from the biological diseases what they are getting. One, the availability of the food. Two, with the medicinal facilities, safe and security for the life from threat of the diseases. And then we have the number of the death rates getting reduced rapidly down. But at the same time, the birth rates were continued to going up. Reduction of the death rates, growth of the birth rates, people who are staying here are fit, fine and healthy. So all these three factors gave a chance to get the population, to get it tripled in 1959 in just 150 years. And later in less than 40 years, it got doubled again. So this gave a chance for us to study about what is life expectancy, what are birth rate, what is death rate, what is normal population growth rate. Life expectancy, how many years a person is expected to live, is called as life expectancy. Expecting the time period of a life is called life expectancy. It is generally calculated in the terms of years. How many years a person is expected to live is called life expectancy. Second, birth rate. Number of children born per 1,000 is called birth rate. Number of children who die less than 5 years of age per 1,000 is called, of the 1,000 born babies, is called death rate. So number of born, birth rate minus number of deaths per 1,000 is equal to the certain amount of population. Let's assume the birth rates are 700, the death rates are 200. So the growth rate of population of a country is 500. So like this, we can understand how the population got changed over the years. Migration. Migration has been an important aspect. Why the population has been changing from one region to another region. The distribution of the population unevenly at various corners of the world. Especially, the population is attracted towards the employment hubs, the educational hubs, the religious centers. So what? Nothing but the people from the less developed countries are migrating towards the more developed regions, either for the employment opportunities or for the educational facilities, or to have a better opportunity for them to survive their businesses. So all these we will call them as immigrants or immigrants. Immigrants are the people who leave the country. If I am migrating from my country India to Russia or to Britain or to USA, I am an immigrant of India. When I am arriving in Russia or Britain or USA, I am arriving, so it is called I am an immigrant. So I am an immigrant in India, I am an immigrant in Russia. E, immigrant. I, immigrant. Immigrant, immigrant. So please kindly remember the words carefully. Immigrants who leave, immigrants who come. Simple logic I'll tell you. When we come inside, I, first letter of in, immigrants, those who are coming into the country. Immigrants, exit, those who are leaving the country. E, immigrants, E, exit, those who are leaving the country. So like this, if you remember, it's very easy for you to remember. Those who are leaving the country are called immigrants, exit, E. Those who are coming into the country, immigrants, in, I, immigrants. So leaving the country are called immigrants. Entering the country, not your country, some other country. You are leaving this country and going to some other country. That I into the other country, that is called immigrants. So those who arrive into the new countries are called immigrants. Those who leave the country are called emigrants. One example where we have more number of immigrants moving from the country to the other countries are Sudan people, where in Sudan, the less developed country, people have migrated from here to various other corners of the world. Generally, from which region to the other region people migrate? People have a tendency to migrate from less developed countries to more developed countries or better than this country in development. Let us take for example like Sudan, Tanzania, Nigeria, or any other countries of Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, Bangladesh. These people try to migrate to the other countries like India, USA, Russia, or any other developed countries of France, Britain, Canada, Latin American countries of Brazil, Chile. All these countries means they are less developed countries looking forward towards the more developed countries, expecting that they would get some better employment opportunities for them. When they are getting the better employment opportunities for them, they are expecting that the life would be much better than staying in this country. That is the most driving factor which drives the people from the less developed countries to the developing countries. So they are immigrants here, they are immigrants there. Rural areas to urban areas, this is called internal migration. Within the country they migrate, that is called internal migration. This internal migration means people from the rural areas move to the urban areas in search of employment opportunities for them, health facilities for them, and educational facilities for the children. So these three factors are the three important factors which make large number of rural area people to migrate from rural areas to urban areas. Like this, migration also plays an important role in changing the distribution of the population pattern. Some areas are highly populated, some areas are very lessly populated, because those are developed countries which are attracting the people from the less developed regions. They are emigrating there, they are immigrating here. The rural areas are less populated when compared to the cities, because there they get more health facilities, educational opportunities for the children, and also better employment opportunities for themselves. So these all are some of the factors why people migrate from one area to another area. Now, patterns of population change. In order to understand this, we have to look at the statement like high population growth, which I have seen from 1959 to 1999, 3 billion, it raised up to 6 billion. So the population has got completely doubled, but the same growth rate is not being felt across in all the countries in the world. Like, for example, let us take in Kenya for an example. In Kenya, we have high population growth rate. Earlier, in Kenya, we used to have high birth rates and high death rates. So high birth rates and high death rates gave a chance to the collapse of the population growth. But with the improvement of the medicinal facilities, healthcare to the young birth children, newly born children, the death rates have come down, but the birth rates continued. So now Kenya is experiencing very high population growth rate, because as we all know, the population of the natural growth rate of a country is equal to total births minus total deaths. So natural birth rate minus natural death rate. Here the birth rate is very high, the death rate is very low. Automatically the growth of the population in Kenya has been increasing very fast. Let us take another example. Let us take in United Kingdom. In United Kingdom also we have the population growth, but not at all like Kenya. Here the population growth rate is not at all very high. It is very slow and steady. The death rates and the birth rates are also very slow and steady. They have good medical facilities available to the people. The death rates are very less, but still the birth rate is also very less. Because of this, the population of UK is not increasing so fast as that of Kenya. In Kenya, high birth rates, low death rates with the improvement of health facilities to the newly born children. With that, the number of people dying has become less. The number of people has been continued to be high and high. So Kenya's population is increasing much faster when compared to UK's population. UK's birth rates and death rates both are low. Healthcare facilities are improved. Death rates have reduced, but still the birth rates are same. So the population is not increasing so fast as it is increasing in Kenya. So we have to understand here, birth rates and death rates determine the population pattern. Whether the population will increase fast, it depends on the number of birth rates happening plus reduction of the death rates. When the birth rates are reduced, they are in less quantity, automatically the population growth also will be slow and steady as it is happening in UK. Now, the population composition. How is the population presented? How the people of different age groups are living? These all will come under the population composition. Let us take an example to understand it much better. Bangladesh, a country which is located on the eastern border of India, while Japan, located in the far east of Asia, on the eastern border of India only. Both the countries are densely populated, highly populated. In simple terms, we can say more number of people are living in Bangladesh and Japan. But without thinking for a second, you can answer that which country is more developed. Without even thinking for a second, you just simply utter the word Japan. Am I right? Yes. Japan is much economically advanced country when compared to Bangladesh. When both the countries have large population, as we discussed earlier, human people are also resources. Why is Japan having more advanced development economically, technologically, or educational level or any other opportunities when compared to the Bangladesh people? That is, in order to understand this, we have to study this criteria of the population. The entire population will be divided into the age of what age of people are living in Bangladesh, what age people are living in Japan, which sex people are living, males or females are more, literacy levels, whether they are educated or uneducated. If they are educated, they become an asset to the country. If they are uneducated, they become a burden to the country. Health conditions. If a person is healthy, he contributes more to the development of himself, his family, and ultimately to the country. When if he is unhealthy, he can't contribute to his family. Family feels him as a burden. He becomes burden for the government also. Occupation and income levels. When there is no education, when there is no health, there is no possibility for you to get a good occupation. And if there is no occupation for you, definitely you come under the low income group. The income level of yours also will be very less. So if you look at all these factors, the age, sex, and the other literacy levels, health condition, occupation, and income levels of Bangladesh and Japan, you come to get a clarity of number of males and number of females. How much are they educated? Are they literates? Are they graduates, undergraduates, or postgraduates? Then employed. Are they employed? Not employed. If they are employed, in which sector are they employed? Primary sector, secondary sector, or the tertiary sector? In which sector are they earning their incomes? If most of the people are in the primary and the secondary sector, that country is called a developing country. If most of the people are in the third sector, service sector, that country is called as a developed country, because the risk is very less when the people are employed in the third sector. And moving on to the population pyramid. What is population pyramid? What do we come to know through the population pyramid? What is the clarity that gives for us about the population? Let's find out. What is the population pyramid? The population pyramid gives us the details of the number of children born, the number of children die, the age of the population. So we get clarity whether the population is educated, whether the population is uneducated, whether the population is healthy or unhealthy, whether the population is growing or decreasing, the life expectancy of the population. When a population is born with healthy, there is no food shortage, good medicinal facilities are available, good educational opportunities are available, then the person will be healthy and his life expectancy also will be high. When these facilities are not there, when there is low medical facilities, low income group families, malnutrition facilities, lack of food shortages, so all these things results to high birth rates and high death rates. So a pyramid with regards to population gives us the details about this one. People living in the country, we get clarity on what category of people are living, which aged people are living. The entire population is divided into 4 groups, that is the 0 to 15 years, 15 to 40, 40 to 59 and 59 and above. These all 4 categories divided the population gives us a clarity whether the young dependents are more or the elderly dependents are more, the working population is more, the economically active population is more. So all these details we get from the population pyramid. A pyramid which gives us the details about the entire population of the country is known as population pyramid. So the levels of the births, whether the children are born healthy in high rate or low rate, then the young dependents, then the elderly dependents. All these play a very vital role in any country's development. Let us see here in Kenya, the birth rates and the death rates both are high. So when you look at the pyramid, it is very broad at the bottom. As it goes up, birth rates and death rates are high, so it gets narrow because these people, those who are born, will be dying very soon. So because of this, it becomes narrow as it moves towards the topper elevations. When it comes to Japan, here we have low birth rates, so the narrow base of the pyramid also will be very narrow because the birth rates are very less, death rates are automatically less. So there is no possibility of very broad pyramid at the bottom growing towards the down upwards as it gets narrower. So this simply gives us a clarity that in Kenya we have the population fast growth, fast fall down because many children are dying here. From that we can understand the medicinal facilities are not so good, the food supplies are not so good, the population is struggling here to make their young ones to survive. The infant mortality rate in Kenya is very high. When it comes to Japan, the infant mortality rate is very low, the risk is very less, the life expectancy of the people is very high. These all are clear for us from the population pyramid. So from this lesson we can make a simple statement, that is, a skilled, who is talented, who can do the work perfectly without any mistakes is called a skilled person. A skilled, spirited, who has that young spirit to do the work, who has that zeal, that energy to do the work, and a hopeful young people who hope positively, who hope towards a better future, positive outlook. They have the positive nature, they don't be always depressed, they are having that positive energy carrying with them. Those who are skilled, those who are spirited, who have that young spirit with them, hopeful young people with the endowed the positive outlook are the future of any country. In any country, if you are able to find skilled people, those who are spirited with the young spirit, then hopefully young people and positive outlook, don't go into the antisocial element ways, don't get attracted towards the antisocial elements. So these people are none other than any country's future. We are very lucky that in our country also we have skilled, spirited, hopeful young people with the endowed positive outlook. They are the future of our country. So for them, the proper educational facilities have to be provided. They have to be educated properly and they have to be shown the positive opportunities for them so that they can use their entire skill, energy and hopefulness to create a better future for themselves, for their families and also for the nation. So from this we can conclude that human resource, the most valuable asset of the present centuries of the nation. Any country may not have natural resources, but if it is having human resources, that country can develop very fast, utilizing the other country's natural resources also skillfully. So human resources are the most valuable assets of the present century for any country.
If you like this video, please give a thumbs up. Please subscribe to our channel to get more videos on CBSE syllabus.